Hello and welcome to the Marketing One podcast. I'm your host, Anusha, Kannan, and it is great to have you here. Are you looking to move into marketing or want to learn marketing from scratch? We discuss all things marketing, analytics, business, personal branding, AI, and much more in a way any layman can understand. If you're new here, make sure to follow along and get on that email list by visiting anushakannan.com/email list to receive newsletters from me twice weekly. Follow at Anusha Ramesh Kannan on TikTok. Tag us on your stories. Would love to see that. And now let's dive in. Welcome back to this week's episode. In this episode, we're going to talk about something that I have really talked about on a lot of episodes, but I'm incredibly passionate about it. Okay. I've talked about it a lot. I have written about it a lot. I've probably just embodied it a lot, but it's about building a personal brand. So over the last couple of years, and stick with me, it's not going to be the same, hey, I talked about it before, I'm going to repeat myself. No, I've had different conversations with people where I've asked them questions and they've asked me questions on how do I start building my personal brand. And I have definitely, like I mentioned, shared bits and pieces of my journey, but I felt like it was time to have something that's a little bit more structured. If you have been following me or if you know me, you know I love frameworks. I love a good structure. I like knowing where things are going, but life doesn't work that way, but this can work that way. This is something that we can stick to for a little bit, especially when you're getting started, something you can really follow step by step. If you're following my blog, you might have caught on to this because I posted something about it, I think 2 months ago. I came up with a framework called CRED. You can call it CRED if you want to. I call it CRED. This framework, I designed it because I want people to have like 4 key pillars to look at when they're building their personal brand. So CRED is nothing but community, realness, education, and data-driven decisions. Now that I've given away what the 4 key pillars are, I'm going to break them down. I'm going to explain what each of those things actually mean. Let's start off with C, community, which is building and engaging. So building a community is not about gathering followers or connections. A lot of people ask me, how many followers do you have? How many connections do you have? How many people know about you? That's not what personal branding is about. It's about creating a space where you can share value, support others, and grow together. I think of it like building relationships. I don't like calling it networking event. I like calling it a space where you build relationships. Are you the person standing in the corner, or are you out there mingling and building relationships? Online, it's the same principle. So I would suggest engage actively in places where people are talking. Even if you have no business being there, put yourself out there. I often put myself out there in front of people that are on the executive level because I love being the fool. I love being the fool in the room. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to engage in conversations that I probably won't even understand. But you still have to, drop your 2 cents there. Share your insights. And I'm starting to sound like Chad David here. I really do recommend it. Talk about what you know. Provide value, because as much as I say that I love being the fool in the room, I hardly am the fool in the room. We all have something to say, some value to add, something that you've learned or something you can appreciate about what the other person said. A personal brand is not about you. It's about what value you can add to others. So community, build a community, start building it, start engaging with people. That's what C stands for. The second one is realness, which is translated into authenticity. People talk about authenticity all the time. But authenticity is not just look at all the difficulties in my life. Authenticity is also about look at all the good things in my life, and vice versa. Our world it's very easy to create a polished, perfect image online, but I suggest being real. I often like to talk about things that I just can't do. Whether or not people are going to think that's the right approach, I still think I believe in being authentic. And being authentic means just being yourself, not like creating this polished version of yourself. Why do I say that? I also think it's really important, incredibly important, to remain professional, but at the same time, we all get that we're humans. While we are on the topic of talking about authenticity, don't do anything that you don't want to do. I've seen people on LinkedIn post pictures with their families, and I love that. But don't do it if you don't want to do it. That's a conversation that I've had with a couple of people when they've asked me, do you think it's okay for me to post this on LinkedIn? I'm like, hey, you've got to do you. You cannot ask people for what their opinion is because they might have different views on how they deal with things like this. Your audience will connect more deeply with you if they see you as a real person and not a brand. While we're always saying build your personal brand, and you need to like talk about yourself as a brand, you need to like have these values. Yes, you need to do all of that. But at the end of the day, you're still a person. So you need to talk about your successes, your failures, and everything in between. So that's what R stands for. E stands for education. And while I say education, I'm not just talking about educate, but also never stop learning. The marketing world especially is constantly evolving, so should you. While we're on the subject of talking about constantly learning, I am not talking about earning certifications. I'm tired of doing certifications. I have done a lot. I don't think there's place on my resume to put more certifications, but I do think getting those certifications should just like prove to yourself as, hey, I've learned these things, but don't do it for the sole purpose of getting the certifications. It's so easy to get certifications. You can go on Canva and create one for yourself if you want to. Yes, I know that the branding is not going to be there. You can still make it, but that's not legit. But I would still say focus on learning and not getting the certifications. You posting on LinkedIn saying I've completed this course it's great. It's showing people that you're learning, but at the same time, everybody's doing it, that your post might just not get noticed. If you're someone that's constantly talking about the things you love, the things you're reading, the things you're learning, then yes, people might notice it because they're curious as like, what is this person learning? I've got to keep up with them. That's a different thing. Rather than you coming on LinkedIn and saying, oh, I did this course, I'm amazing. I want to thank this professor, this course instructor that I've never met in my life, that I will never talk to. Hey, thank you for helping me learn this course. I do think it's important to stay curious, share what you're learning with others, but in a format where it's not like, hey, I'm happy to announce that I've done this certification. Talk about things that you've learned. I would say, even if you want to talk about, I've done this certification and I want to talk about it, I want to let people know that I've done the certification, I would recommend first talk about, hey, this is how this mindset of I wanted to learn about this particular topic. I looked for courses, found this one. I feel like this is an amazing course, but forget about that. Here's what I learned. And then in the end, you can always tag the course creator if you want to and acknowledge them, but that's totally up to you. Another way to keep learning is to attend webinars, reading up on latest trends, and always be on the lookout for ways to grow. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. The last part, which is D, data-driven. You know me. I love data. Let numbers guide you. Let's talk about the importance of being data-driven. It's not always about the gut feeling. I do love the gut feeling. I often go with it, but I also think when you have data to back it up, it adds credibility. You can measure your progress, analyze what's working, what's not working, be ready to adapt. It helps you refine your approach over time. So when I say data, I've been doing this lately, which is having like, especially as when I spent a year as a business analyst, I kind of noticed this, and anybody who's not even an analyst, if you're somewhat involved in a little bit of data, you would know that companies have week over week, month over month, year over year reviews of the reports they create. I started doing that with all of the stuff that I do. I was like, I just want to understand like what's working and what's not working. If you can't do that for your own brand, which is your quote unquote brand, how are you going to do it for a company? Just think about it. So that's the CRED. You can call it CRED if you want to. I am not calling it CRED, but the CRED framework stands for community, building and engaging. It's not about followers. It's about sharing value, supporting others, and growing together. R, realness, authenticity. Just be yourself. Don't pretend to be someone else. Your audience will understand you only then. Be a real person. Don't act like a brand. E stands for education. Never stop learning, which doesn't mean you only have to keep learning. You also have to share value. You have to give back to people. And D is data-driven. Let the numbers guide you. So by using CRED framework, community, realness, education, data-driven decisions, you can build a personal brand that's not only powerful, but also meaningful. So let me know what you think about this. And that's all for today. Hope you find it useful. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me at anusha@anushakannan.com. Follow me on LinkedIn to never miss my journey, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.